things not double recording and whatnot.
Yeah, agree.
Hello, everyone at home. We are back on the air.
Oh,
Let me check. There we go. Looks like we are. Let me check the sound again. Shouldn't have changed, but who knows, hey? Who knows? Yep. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. And I'll do a question. What question will I ask? I will ask, what is your favorite conspiracy theory? And I should have just enough time to be able to send out something to the Discord for this one. And maybe even tweet about it.
have you heard the name of Tim's new NFT?
Studio something? No, Project 555?
No. It's called Cock Punch.
Okay. And what's it look like?
I'll show you.
Or is it meant to be a looking thing? He said it was meant to be different.
No, it is a looking thing.
Well, disappointing, Tim.
That's what they look like.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of
I listened to
computer-generated art recently.
The lore, the story that he's putting behind in the back end of it seems quite interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, one of the reasons they say
so this isn't the project.
This is the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was called Project 555 or something.
It's called Cock Punch. That was just like the hidden name, I guess, behind it. They were talking about it with Kevin Rice about where it came from, because originally he was joking around that he wanted to call it Cock and Balls.
Okay.
But then, because he just thought it would be funny.
Yeah.
And then one of the aspects he called it Cock Punch was because if people wanted to write badly about it or wanted to be critical of it, they would have to still write Cock Punch to try to talk about it, and Tim would just find that funny as well. Like if someone was trying to be like, an article would be like,
okay, yeah,
Cock Punch is such a terrible NFT, it'll just make him laugh.
Still have
be
to
like,
say
you'll
that,
have to write Cock Punch. So we'll see. I have no idea if I've got like access to buy or anything like that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. What about the... I'm sorry, could you send a message to our group chat?
Yep, Messenger.
Yeah. Alright, there we go. And I'll send this out on Twitter as well. And I'll add
I wonder if our good friend Manchell has gotten his coins off
I know.
exchange.
I would bet his own coins that he has not.
I'm completely off now.
Completely.
The only thing I've held on exchanges, folks, is 0.7 ETH. That's all I have on an exchange.
Okay.
So that's it.
There you go. That's not that much. That's not that much at all. Juan has got no money, it seems like. Okay, well, it's 7 a.m. I've sent that out. This is rolling. Got a couple of people in the chat.
Good.
Sorry, I should say there's a couple of people listening. They better join the chat. But yeah, I think we're ready to kick off if you're willing to...
Let's do it. Do you want to run this one?
No.
Good.
Do you take much notes?
0. No notes were taken.
Or did he, people? Down.
And that's the...
I took a couple, but yeah, I've been my preparation for this one has been suboptimal as well.
Weak.
All right, well, here we go, Juan.
Let's go.
You ready?
can be mortal.
The models.
Welcome back, folks, to Musings. In addition, here with the Mere Mortals, we have deep conversations with a lighthearted touch. Normally, Musings is a chance for us to get deep into topics, deep into conversations. Now, I am going to say it absolutely up front that we have had some full days, is what I'm calling it. Very full days. And so our preparation for this has been subpar.
Yeah.
However, there is a joint point or reason as to why I wanted to have this conversation.
Okay.
And it was, so I don't know what's the title of this, what we're calling it.
What did I call it?
Something to do with...
Let me see. I said the extremes of conspiracy theories are their grains of truth.
Okay.
Question mark.
So really the main aspect was I guess some questions as I read to a particular article.
Yeah. And
a particular published post, and I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be linked. It'll be linked.
Cool, so it'll be linked. Now, did you get to read the entirety of it? Because it's huge. Yeah. Did you read it? Then when you open it, and you're like, okay, this is a long post.
I probably read in total the equivalent of 4 paragraphs worth spread across 36 paragraphs. So
Right.
I read, probably some full sentences here, keywords in others, and I just went, and I clicked on some of the links, so I did do some follow through. But it was too much, man. I just went.
It was a lot.
I don't need to fully read this to really. To be honest, I probably should have read the full thing as prep, because I might have gained some additional insights, but I couldn't. It was too much.
It was a lot. Now, so let me.
So give people at home.
Yeah, exactly. So let me lay it up front for you as to how I come about this particular article and why I wanted to talk about this.
Yep.
So, I don't know how long this particular article was, but it took me a few days to read it. As in, I saved it in a tab so I could go back and refer to it. So I was like, okay, this is a lot. There's a lot here.
Do you remember the name of it? Sure, should I bring it up on the screen?
It'll be in the email, but yeah, I'm uncertain what direct name of it would be. But yeah, bring it up.
I'll bring up the full thing.
The way that I stumbled across it was, this was predominantly through the FTX debacle that people who are in the crypto space would know. Maybe others who are not in it. Basically, there's just been some wrongdoing, bad boys in FTX or the crypto exchanges in general. People lost a lot of money, market's gone down, etc., etc., etc.
So it's called A Grand Unified Theory of the FTX Disaster by Matthew Crawford with 1T, Matthew, on November 21st. So this is 9 days ago. As of recording.
Zoom out on the actual page just to show people, for those who actually look at this.
And it was on the roundingtheearth.substack.
Yeah, so just to have a bit of a guidance on how gigantic this article is, right? It's massive. It's huge. There's a lot of things in here. Now, I had the privilege, or should I say, or is it the suffering to read all of it? I actually read all of it end to end.
Now, why was maybe one of my questions.
This is the reason why. So the way I stumbled across it was a Twitter post. There was a particular. I don't even remember the name of the tagline of it, but it's a Twitter handle which talks a lot about Bitcoin, who posted this. And then I saw it posted by another person. And I went, okay, I seem to read, I seem to understand what they're talking about. Let me look into this. It seems like a good read at the very least. It might be like a bit of an interesting read.
Okay.
Now, just as for folks obviously who might go and read this, because again, I sent it to Kyron to read for this, and he didn't even read all of it.
No,
it is in essence.
That's mostly due to me not enjoying reading things on a screen, though. To be honest.
Yeah, honestly, I don't enjoy that either. Look, to get you the gist of it, the whole article tries to go into this conversation of the issue with FTX and why it sort of didn't go well. The many interlinking tentacles throughout society. So it goes into pedophilia, like child pedophilia, rings, and goes into power struggles. It goes into banks playing.
There was something about pickup artists in there. Did you?
There was pickup artist stuff. There was.
I clicked on that link to go through, and I ended up in a weird place. It had no connection to what he was talking about.
There was some weird. I mean, I didn't go through all of the links. I'm going to say, I didn't check some.
There's too much. Yeah.
It talks about different universities, parents, all this sort of stuff.
Effective altruism. Any like slight
any connection. It was
link to
but
it. Yeah.
The bit that really interests me as I read it through all was, oh, this person, I don't know if that's his actual name, I don't know if it's an alias, he knows a lot of the people from FTX because he taught them. Because he taught them at the university.
Okay.
So he was an ex-professor who taught all of these, most of the, not Sam, but most of the other people in FTX directly.
So that was MIT then, was it?
MIT. So he makes actual comments through it where he's like, I know that this person would know this because there's been some call outs. I think it was in the article saying, oh, I didn't really know how to do this. And he was like, bullshit, I told that person directly how this, told, we were talking about it at university. There's no way this retard didn't know. He knew. Okay. So it was kind of like, okay, that interested me. I guess I was like, okay, I'm going to consider reading this whole thing because this individual seems to have some connection of some form to these people. Okay, let's hear him out. Now, as I read through, and whatever your thoughts are around a lot of this, with conspiracy theories in general, I kind of landed on a point of there's probably a lot of truth buried in here somewhere. There is
a lot of truth.
I would say there's a lot of truth.
Okay,
I'd say so.
That's a stronger statement than I would make.
Okay. So, and what I mean by that is that there's a lot of truth, whether it is so connected to the story portrayed in article or the medium, is different. It's very different. So he talks about probably the financial mishaps, or they're trying to get money out from people. Is there truth in that? There's probably truth in that for sure. There's probably some version of truth. Could I see other possibilities? For sure. But that seems a pretty, respectable one. Is there truth in the pedophilia rings that get run, that powerful people, are doing some pretty nasty things that people don't know about and all that? Absolutely. I would be like, for me, that seems very much like the truth. But that seems not avoidable. It's been shown in a lot of different cases that weird things are happening like that. But I think for me, and what so this article, and what I wanted to talk about today really is this main point, is that I found the whole article really interesting. But my go-to, my default challenge is how do I separate the fact that it's interesting and some truth in there scattered about in ways you can be like, oh yes, here's a link that shows this. Cool. Okay, that's true. Okay, this is true. But the way, I guess, the storyline, the tentacles are pulled together into the octopus, you kind of go, oh, okay. But if you pull it all together like this, I need to somehow pierce it in my mind that this theory, conspiracy theory, I can't say oh yeah, I believe this is exactly what happened. I can only say that it's interesting and there's pieces of truth scattered about that make sense to me. There's some reality embedded in here somewhere. But my default when I read this was, I want to reshare this. I was like,
really?
Man, I want to reshare this. I want people to read this. This seems interesting. And I kind of I halted myself and I went, okay, I do want to share this, but there's a lot of the storyline, there's a lot of the story connecting points or the connectivity that I go, is this person making it up? Is it just their belief? Is it just purely a conspiracy theory that's been taken to the extreme?
Yeah.
What was your default reactions, I guess, when you first looked at it?
So,
and how do you sort of tackle maybe some of that where there's truth embedded in a big story, and to separate, to be like, okay, even as I see truth, I'm putting up a wall. This is not real to me.
Yeah. Look, that's a hard one because it's how do I suppose the bigger question would be how do I evaluate not just this one, but things in general that come through to be able to. I'll admit that my filtering process probably is suboptimal, and I don't use it on every single case. And that, to be fair, you can't. It's so hard to activate the system 1 versus system 2 thinking. To activate that system 2 rational, analytical thinking is very, very hard. So you do need to have some sort of bullshit detector in the system 1. Initial something comes in, floats up to your mind. Are there any things that either are signals that it's a positive, like this is more likely to be accurate, and not only that, accurate and useful information, and or is it more leaning towards perhaps the inaccurate, and even then it's not useful? And you can have variations of that where it's accurate, but it's how useful is it going to be for me if I know all the stats of the grain production in England of 1863? It's like, well,
probably not much.
Not much. So do I need to care about this?
Sure.
No, not really. I was even just looking at this right now, and I think it's one of my big detectors of where it lumps in a whole lot of things really quickly. So we're in like 1, 2, roughly 3, 4, 5 paragraphs down, and then he's got okay, here are some of the topics that we hit, which is the overview. And then it's like, FTX was collapsed. Okay, I can kind of see that. Links to the globalist elite. All right, that one's kind of starting to ping off some radars. Maybe, that I've seen that word used with some ridiculous shit in the past. So it's like, okay, I gotta be careful with what they're doing there. Then we've got into, hitting the pandemic. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what does the pandemic have to do with this? And then Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein.
It's like an all-in-one. It's an all-in-one
psychopathic elites, genetically superior human race, pedophile elite, all massive gathering of genetic data, and gene drive technology. So it's like 8 different things which are seemingly unconnected, and I don't even like what does gene drive technology mean? I've never heard that before. Now, that could just show how much of a sheeple I am and don't know the facts, but there is certain extents to how much information a person can take. I couldn't take the whole Bitcoin stuff right at the start, and it needed to be like drips and drabs over a long period.
Over time, yeah.
And I've noticed this before with debates. I find it very strange because it's almost like they're trying to get the person to admit in the moment that they're wrong. And I've noticed this on Twitter as well. Someone's been like talking to me about Bitcoin and my shitcoinery ways. And I was like, look, man, it doesn't really matter how effective the arguments you produce are. It's too hard for a human to really change their mind split second. And I would say you should be distrustful of me if I change my mind in the moment of you producing good information. I think you need to kind of marinate in the information and then be like, okay, I'll have to change my point of view on this. Like it's too convincing.
You can do it pretty quickly. I would disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that. I think there's too much reputation stake, especially when it's live on camera or on Twitter for everywhere to see. I think there's a lot there. So
I think it just very much depends on the amount of information or the change being had. If it's a huge change, absolutely. Like, if you're doing like life changing mind.
Did it feel like this one for you was a big change? So all of this, if I had to accept, because it feels like I need to accept everything in here for it to make sense, is the general kind of feeling I get.
Yeah, I guess my
which is then like, man, I have to now accept psychopathic elite, genetic data, pedophile elite, something to do with pandemic, attempt to control digital currencies through the regulatory system using the FTX debacle as an excuse. There's a whole lot of things that I have to...
it's like a lot that you have to like go and go, okay, I accept that this timeline is real.
So that's what I struggle with this particular one in general, this example.
Yeah, and I think the reason I was thinking through is because whenever it's in other conspiracy theories or other ideas that get put forward, for me, maybe unlike that, like if I'm put forth with some information, maybe some solid information, I can change my mind or shift where I'm linking very quickly. Like, cool, okay. All right, cool. Off we go that way because we now have some. I'm definitely not tied to. I'm correct or I've got the right view based on previous information. If you're going to present something that's strong enough that can course correct, awesome. I'll course correct really quite quick, unless there's something quite foundational, and then it's going to take a while, even if you're presenting information. So,
yeah. See, I'm kind of skeptical of my own propensity to be influenced by people, and not just the information they present, but how it's presented.
Yeah. I guess I'll give you an example. There's a work thing that I was I had conversations with the team, with different individual people. We'd been doing a particular expectation of how we're going to be delivering work for like a few months now. And so I got into a conversation in person with two people. They were like, "Oh, Juan, we need your thoughts on this. Can we call it this? We call it that?" And it was around a term called integration, right? And I was saying, no, by all means, I call this conversation, no, that's not part of our thing. It shouldn't be part of the definition of done for this particular work stream. That should be done later as part of the acceptance criteria or as part of the next levels. That's not in the plan, etc., etc., etc. Afterwards, now, remember, I've got like already preconceived notions, already had a conversation with lots of teams. I've seen details. I then got into a conversation with another two members where, talking. They were trying to kind of like oppose my thought. And I was like, no, like I've talked this out. I can see, so I'm kind of like ingraining myself. I've got a pretty deep-seated thought behind it until they kind of showed me like, no, here's the proof. And it was kind of a plan to show that the integration actually is part of what some teams should be doing and how it should be connected. And then it probably took, I don't know, genuine, like I could feel it inside me. I felt myself kind of getting frustrated because of this conversation to then get that presented. And it was like 6 seconds where it was like, oh, cool. Okay. I can see we were in the wrong. We didn't have all the information. Cool. Change course. Now we've got to change some things and get some information kind of rolling to make sure we shift towards that. So for me, I was like, oh, fine. That's the truth. Like that's actually the truth now. How it interweaves with the story and what's actually being presented, not presented, communicated. That's a whole different kettle of fish. And so that, I'm like, okay, well, you have to put that aside. But for me, okay, cool. There's the truth. Fantastic. Now let's figure out how that storyline actually looks. So from a conspiracy theory in general, or like this one in particular, I kind of go, okay, the gene editing stuff. Cool. I know about that. I know about CRISPR. I've heard about some of the ways that they've utilized it in both like embryo forms and different things. Can be done. Like that's
what
true.
What about gene drive technology?
And gene drive. I think what they mean in gene drive technology here, and you have to go into the article to look into it. I'm pretty sure it's the editing of genes, right? And so what they talk about in this article, there's truth. There's truth elements. This is what I struggle with. There's truth elements in the sense of, I think the example that they give here is you could edit the gene for basically being able to procreate. So you could edit that and say if you get rid of the procreation gene, then it actually could stop humanity or you could control it. So I think you got it there in front of you.
Gene drives, genetic interventions for controlling pest or disease-carrying organisms and invasive species in the wild.
Yeah. So, I believe, and people have to go into the detail of this article, but I think he's insinuating that they could do that with a human species. And so you could stop a lineage, you could stop whatever doesn't fall under the supreme run, right?
Yeah.
Now, the technology and the details behind it, I'm like, oh, there's truth. There is truth being told. And I think a lot of really good conspiracy theories all have truth elements like this. But then I don't accept the overall storyline that's being put together. But it makes me, I think as we were putting it between like mode 1 and mode 2, system one. My system one goes, oh, this is interesting. Oh, there's lots of truth elements here that I know about or I've heard before. This is all interesting. And so I immediately want to kind of like reshare, want to talk about it. But because I did read it over a couple of days, which again, I think helped, through that, a little bit of system 2 kicked in and I was like, oh, okay, I can see personally that in ideas like this, in conspiracy theories, or just in different ideas, I can accept bits of the truth without accepting the overall story and being okay and happy with that as well. So I guess kind of like, it's a little bit of a summary of where I kind of landed with that.
Yeah.
The other one as well that I was just going to check, was there any comments or anything coming through on the line?
Yeah, there is a little bit. So we've got Joey in the chat, and he was saying, so I was asking just what are the favorite conspiracy theories, and he was saying that Liam F's mum isn't actually Liam F, and it's just a friend stitching him up. That's too far beyond belief. Then
that's too far beyond belief.
A friend of his is the JFK shooting might have been someone with a vested interest rather than a random shooter from the public. That's a pretty standard one, I guess. That's not too wild in terms of wildness. I should say in terms of popularity, in terms of wildness of how accurate it is. I've no fucking clue.
Sure.
I agree with Juan. It's okay to be open to changing your mind rapidly on a topic, depending on the scale and information learned/produced. Yeah, I still lean, at least for myself, I lean very heavily towards not in the moment. So my best decision making is not made under time pressure, and the time pressure of having someone in front of you trying to convince you that you're wrong or that this other thing is more correct or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't. For me, it doesn't work that way, and I would even argue that for most humans, it probably
maybe not the natural.
How much percentage of decisions that get reversed are actually made because of the logical, rational underpinnings versus the character, charisma of the person or the delivery method that is being presented. I would guess that it's not high.
Yeah, it could be.
In any case,
so. Another point, I guess, for the conspiracy theories, and I guess is some take to the extreme. And again, so I read this article, and ultimately, what I do from it, I didn't share it. I didn't share it anywhere. I didn't really talk about it to anyone because I really realized, okay, cool. I'm interested in the individual elements. It's kind of fun to think that such a crazy story could be. Do I truly believe that all of that is what's happening? Probably not. Maybe there's aspects to it, but do I then care? Not really. Not enough to care to go into figuring out even more details myself or anything like that. Cool. So just pause it there. But then I compared it with, another conspiracy theory. And I brought it up on the podcast a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure, because it was on Joe Rogan's, and I can find the guy's name. We can pull it up. The Younger Dryas theory. And you mentioned to me...
Well, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's an alternate version of history. So unless the conspiracy theory is people at the tops of the government or someone is trying to repress his theory.
Would you call it because, so there is a Netflix documentary series, I think it's a 6-part or an 8-part series.
Yeah, I saw it
like that.
I saw it being
Ancient something.
Civilization.
In that and on the conversation with Joe Rogan, the guy, probably should look up what his name is. He very clearly states paleontologist. Is it paleontologist? Is it paleontologist? Maybe not.
Archaeologist,
that's the one. Paleontologists, I think, is dinosaurs. Archaeologists don't want to go and investigate, and even in the first episode of the series, they state that they even told the archaeologists who were there, who were initially undertaking it, they told them, "Hey, stop. Don't look into this more."
So there's Graham Hancock you're talking about?
Graham Hancock. So his series, I don't know if you've got it there.
There's one called Ancient Civilizations.
I think
and then there's another one, I think, which is Ancient Apocalypse.
I believe it's Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Ancient Apocalypse. So, even the first episode of that Ancient Apocalypse, it shows that there was archaeologists trying to find out information. They basically got told to stop, go away, and archaeologists in general are just not choosing to accept this version. So I don't know. Do you call that an alternative theory, or do you call it a conspiracy theory?
I think conspiracy theory is. I mean, we can look up the definition, but I was pretty sure it was requiring some sort of conscious beings to be conspiring, one or many conscious beings conspiring to do something. So there's,
I guess. Yeah,
so in this case, if it's him just saying this is what history used to be like, that's not a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory would be people don't like what I'm presenting, and they're trying to suppress that information.
I think that's what he is suggesting. It's the latter, as in, hey, here I'm putting forward the alternative idea. And he's being, I guess, relatively, from a literary perspective, attacked, saying, he doesn't know what he's doing, plus archaeologists not wanting to follow up on what's being presented.
Yeah. A conspiracy theory is a belief that a group of people are secretly trying to harm someone or achieve something. Usually use this term to suggest that you think this is unlikely. And then from Wikipedia, conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that involves a conspiracy, also known as a plot, or secret plan or agreement by sinister and powerful groups, often political in motivation. When other explanations are more probable, so also adding that likelihood. So when you say conspiracy theory, you're usually referring to something that seems unlikely.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay, let's say that particular one, whether it's just an alternative theory or it's a conspiracy theory, figure out which one it fits in the realm of as you're listening to this. But for me, I went, again, lots of, as I watched it, as I listened to the conversation with Joe Rogan, I was like, the stuff that Graham's presenting, again, I see a lot of truth things in there. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yes, it obviously was it looked like a pyramid, or is this particular thing. Oh, yes, there is all these, the way that the Mayans would do it and these other people would do it looks kind of similar. Hey, they all seem to have the same mythological background expectation of what was happening. Okay, that's is it coincidental? Is it not? I think I get drawn to, hey, there's all this information that's cool in a way. I'll say it's just cool. It's interesting. It seems like it maybe even goes against the grain a little bit, and I have maybe a propensity to enjoy that. There's the term where people say like, oh, my legs are really starting to hurt if you're running or something. It's like, oh, I'm building up too much lactic acid. Like that's the burning sensation. That's wrong. That's actually like wrong. It's not. It's the lactic acid builds up in your legs to stop more pain from happening. The pain's not coming from lactic acid. It's the other buildup of other things that's causing the pain. Lactic acid works to stop that. So I was like, that's cool. That's actually quite cool. I enjoy knowing that because it kind of goes against the normal convention of thinking. So I go, I really like that. So I think I'm probably going to I'm saying I'm susceptible to conspiracy theories because the kind of like the partnering of I'm against the grain with information, plus sometimes based on really quite peculiar truths kind of draw me in. And I have to put some really concerted effort to split that away from the rest of the storyline. So I think what I'm saying, if you send me a conspiracy theory and you're pretty well at establishing the story, I'm going to have a more than 50% chance to be like, oh, I find this interesting. Maybe I'll share it. Maybe I'll start believing in it. So
when would you say you're a credulous person? So difference here between credulous and gullible is gullible, you will believe a person or a fact kind of despite previous knowledge of it. So it's kind of contradictory to what you already know, versus credulous is someone says something and you just have a tendency to believe it straight up without you have zero knowledge of this. Someone says something, I don't know, this subspecies of African Saharan plant actually has 10 times the amount of caterpillars that normally appear on it compared to another one. Do you take that as a face value? Yes, that's probably correct. Or that unknown piece of information, do you view it more suspiciously or something like that?
I'll be interested to hear your answer, but my answer would be I'll put it into like an equation. If I've got zero, it's like 3 pieces. If I've got zero knowledge of whatever the hell's being talked about, multiplied by how much information is being presented by the person, multiplied by the interest I might have in that, I'll be like, okay, the less I understand of the concept and the more the interesting aspect of it seems that's getting presented to me. So like say that story, let's just say I have no idea about, I don't know, let's say some sort of star system, gravity, something, but I find it interesting, even though I know nothing about it. So someone told me something like that. They're like, here's some information about this. I find it really interesting and I have no idea. I'd believe it. Super credible. I'm like, yep, absolutely. You sold me, whatever. Yep. Until something else comes into my path to knock that idea out, that's with me. I'm not even questioning this thing.
Yep.
But if I have some knowledge into space. Again, so let's say something to do with gym, something to do with fitness, right? And someone comes in with some information, even so their level of information and their, I guess the interest that I have for me as well would have to be at a much higher level for me to accept that credibility. So I think the value of me knowing the particular topic does change how much is needed as an input to allow me to be credible. That would be like my maybe the default thinking. What about yours?
Okay. Oh no, I'm incredibly credulous. Which is why I was kind of disliked your easy lying, joking / lying.
Yeah.
Because why would there be any other reason why I would say he's hasn't prepared when he actually has prepared? Like what?
Just so you know, folks, I have not prepared a single thing.
So
for this.
this today he wasn't joking, but he has joked in the past before, and my initial reaction is like, well, why the fuck didn't you prepare? Like what? That's like what the podcast is about. Like there's a kind of agreement we've got going on, and so I do have a tendency to just believe what people tell me without really taking that extra step to even if I have 10% knowledge of it, I won't actively apply that 10%. I'll just be like, James Cridland said there's actually 20 million podcasts. Okay, all right, there's 20 million. Like very rarely is there a need for me to fact check a lot of these things.
See, okay, because in some part, I do that a little bit in default, as in, say, sometimes you'll say something to me, or a friend will say, or we're talking about something, and if I've got some knowledge, so it's got to be some knowledge, not no knowledge, but if I've got some knowledge, I'll definitely pull up my phone, I'll do something and be like, okay, they said it's 25 million, listens. I think this happened just like a little while ago where it was like, Apple gets the most listens more than Spotify or something to that effect. And I was like, I don't know, what's the most used website or something like that. I think we were talking about.
Yeah.
And we said something and I was like, hold on, that doesn't, it was
search engine.
And I was like, hold on, that doesn't sound right. Like, I know something about this and it just doesn't sound like, either doesn't sound right or no, I need to fact check this.
To be specific, I said YouTube was the second biggest search engine. That's what I said.
Okay. Yeah. So then I was like, I don't want to accept that. I'm not credulous to accept it straight away at face value. I need to do my own check sort of thing to verify how this is being measured, I guess. But if I had no idea in the subject, if I don't know, I was a farmer, I think if you would say the same thing, I'd just be like, cool, credible, fantastic, sounds good. Move on. Like I think that's probably would be my mentality in that regard.
Yeah.
And then a bit more challenging on other aspects.
Let's do some Boostagrams, man, and then we'll kick it off with some other thoughts because it's a complex topic. A lot of stuff.
All right.
So, Boostagram Lounge.
Boostagram Lounge. Welcome, folks, to the Boostagram Lounge. That's where we chat about the Boostagrams, the way that folks at home have been supporting the podcast, the Mere Mortals podcast. Also book reviews, Mere Mortals book reviews and Value for Value. But we are going to be talking about just the Mere Mortals book reviews, Boostagrams that have come through.
Just the Mere Mortals.
Now you can, you might have been supporting us 12,112 sats sent using Cron. Dave, as always, thank you very much. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Dave.
For the Mere Mortal Light Nation. So thank you. We've got Peter, 7,777 sats sent using Fountain. He says, I couldn't help think of those Indian oligarchs who build those insanely opulent homes in the middle of the slums. Nobody goes crazy and attacks their Lambo when it drives by. I reckon it's because they get killed. I reckon they'd probably have security guards who'd probably just absolutely slaughter them.
Yeah, it's like the favelas in Brazil.
Yeah.
Right next to each other, next to a mansion. And yeah, I feel like, violence is the
it's almost that's what I mean. Like it's like nobody goes crazy and attacks the Lambos when it drives by. They don't. I agree. Well, they don't, Peter. That's the truth. But I go, is it because someone did and got absolutely like they just disappeared, or at some point these people who have got that much wealth that just control a lot of other things that are going to make some very bad times for people who actually try to do that. So, but he says in relation to all this. He doesn't think anyone will go crazy when 5% of Bitcoin moves. People will be able to handle that. This sort of Peter.
Yeah. So. Yeah, well, that was a good podcast to do. I enjoyed doing that because I kind of changed around from my initial reaction, which I thought was, man, there would be a lot of problems with 5% being really transparently moved around. But I think the more I thought about it, I was like, nah, yeah, I agree with them. I think we can handle it.
Okay.
I think humans can handle it.
I'm still on the fence.
Juan's still on the fence.
I actually saw that a whale, nobody knows who it was, but have bought up the most amount of Bitcoin now, or holds the most amount of Bitcoin in one wallet, $2.4 billion worth of Bitcoin or something like that.
Okay.
So I was like, oh.
How many is that? How many coins?
600 something thousand or something like that. Like the biggest, or 492,000, something like that.
Good on them.
Yeah. So, anyways, you don't have to wonder. It's me. No. The last one here. This from all you Boostagram folks. We've now become the biggest wallet of Bitcoin holders. So thank you very much. No, the last one here. Proud mum of Liam F. Good afternoon, Karen. Is it true that when you have photographs taken of you, you ask to have the photo taken of the left side of your face because you believe it's your best side? Much love, proud mama.
There is one side I think that is better. I don't know if it's my left, and I don't think I've asked people, but yeah, I've noticed that there's one side of my face that seems to look a little bit better. Like it's slight, could be over analyzing, but I think it's slightly more proportional or something like that.
Okay,
but I don't ask people to.
I was going to say both look like shit anyway. So I don't know if it really matters. But the proud mum of Liam F thinks the left hand side is the best. Perhaps that's her answer.
But like I've said, I always have a tendency to tilt my head a little bit when taking a photo. I don't know why, but it's like very slight
towards the side.
Yeah, even if you look at our the
Mere Mortals thumbnail
cover image, you'll see my head's tilted.
There you go. But in any case, those are the Boostagrams that have come through, folks, for
Legends.
Another week.
Thank
Thank you very much, Dave, Peter, and proud mum of Liam F. And once again, if you do want to support the podcast, we are a Valley for Valley enabled podcast. So using any of the latest podcasts platforms out there, such as, well, you got Fountain here. Well, Fountain's the main one's being
Fountain's
used.
the main one, yeah.
There's others out there. You can go on check that out. Newpodcasts.com. Is that correct?
New podcast apps.
Newpodcastapps.com. If you want to get involved and play around with sending some sats.
Yep. So
that is the Boostagram Lounge.
Sounds good. I wanted to talk, I suppose, about how do you find out if it's a conspiracy theory quickly? What are some tells that you use? And once again, just because it's a conspiracy theory doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And the people conspire, and there are definitely theories out there, and there are plenty of proven ones. So in this case, I'm talking about the tendency for really shoddy stuff to get presented, and then I guess the question is just truth telling. How do you find what's your metrics for a truth telling and in particular in the realm of conspiracy theories, where it is usually grand, large scale, big actors doing something, whether it affects you or not directly?
I think the first answer to that for the conspiracy theories, I think I'll probably land on the side of retelling the conspiracy theory. So I kind of get a feel, at least intrinsically, that it's a conspiracy theory. Well, that it's a shitty conspiracy theory, or if it's something that's worth considering as a conspiracy theory, in the way that I would have to retell it back to somebody. So maybe not that article that we're talking about, because that is just a ginormous amount of thing that you have to kind of like recall. But let's talk about like Area 51 right now. For the most part, most people have heard about it somewhat. It's in popular media and the like. But that's kind of got the right flavors of, if I was to retell such a story to a kid, there's aspects of believability to it. There's aspects of truth within it. They are guarding something. They don't. It's very secretive and all this sort of stuff, where it makes me think, okay, cool. Here's an idea that is probably one that I would share, and it's just not so full of bullshit that I'd be like, this is useless. But it would, to me, as I would explain it to people, it would also be like, okay, cool. Here's a conspiracy theory because it's very much against conventional thinking. If you were to just state that particular story and say, this is truth, or this is the fact, then it would be wrong. Like it feels, at least to me, like it would be wrong in saying that. It would have to be like, oh no, it's a theory, it's a conspiracy theory that this is the case. However, it hasn't been proven true, but has enough elements that could make it to be true. So I feel like a conspiracy theory that has no elements of it being truth is not a conspiracy theory. It's wrong. It's just false. It's a lie, basically. And I go, okay, well, that's not a conspiracy theory to me. That's even if the definition of it feels like it would be correct. Like if I said to you right now, all of humanity is actually dinosaurs, right? And you're just conspiring against me. No, you're not. Nobody is. There's just light. You're just making up shit. Like that's wrong. So, but to say, Area 51, yeah, there's aspects that they're doing against it. There could be validity to truth. It could be true. Like you don't actually know for sure. Okay, that holds to me. Like it's a conspiracy theory, has some truth in it, and it could be proven true. It could be proven false. That's kind of like my go-tos for conspiracy theories. Do you have any different thoughts around just like, there's more just general before like truth telling, but just like a conspiracy theory, how would you decipher whether it's a conspiracy theory or not?
Yeah, I think kind of like a couple of things I said from that guy, which is usually it's broad reaching in scale. And so particularly the big kind of proponents of them that I've met in real life, but people who are like, this is this.
No.
They don't stop with one. It's not like they just have one particular one and it's like this, everyone needs to know about this. There's usually 7. And they bring it up in pretty rapid succession has been my general experience. And usually one of the 7 is so far beyond the realms of believability that it's like, you've tainted the waters. Like I can't. It's now very hard for me to believe any of these, even though maybe statistically one is valid. Statistics. I've noticed there's a general dearth of statistics. I would love to know, if you could compile every Medium article and then every Medium article that fit under the conspiracy theory label, how many of them would have numbers in them compared to others? So I get a feeling that the amount of numbers, it's kind of like how you can, from financial reports, you can actually find out if it's dodgy based on just the statistical numbers that are actually in it. You heard this before? So sort of like someone's cooked the books, they've made up numbers, or they've tried to use like some sort of wizardry to make this kind of look like it makes sense, this makes sense, and you get to this number which is either highly inflated or deflated depending on what they're trying to do. There's actually analysis that you can do through just the numbers themselves to work out of the kind of like statistical probability of 0s, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s. And you can kind of do like an analysis and say there's too many 0s in this, or there's too many 1s, or there's too many of this in comparison to this. Statistically, it should be this way. So it's likely that these books have been cooked. So it's nothing to do with what it's actually talking about being. Like it's not like, there was 85 million and then we moved this 85 million, or like these numbers here relate to this one somehow. It's just the actual numbers themselves. So
damn.
Yeah,
this is so like a meta, but there's like this sort of stuff that I'm like listening, I'm like, that sounds a little bit like bullshit. Like I'm like, what's the proof of that?
Once again, like I haven't done this myself.
Well, I mean, and the reason I go is like, that sounds like a bit of bullshit, because like I've read financial statements and I'm like, okay, you could have financial statements where I'll
find it to you afterwards.
But like in that example, in like some knowledge, I go, okay, let's say it's 0s. I go, well, what about a financial statement from the government where they won't put 0s, but a financial statement from a private company that does put 0s in the 85 million, right? So if you put 85 million in a financial statement or a particular private company, it might be just 85 with M as a capital being 85 million in that financial line item, with the equivalent thing on, say, like
it's about the whole report, not just so. In that case, then it would be
like lots of 0s are missing.
As long as they keep the standard formatting in the report, it'll work itself.
It'll do itself. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. I mean, I could see that. I could see some probability of that, like some statistics that would come up and be like, yeah, this has been shown.
It's kind of like a rule of thumb thing, like the golden ratio, or you can figure out
it's kind of like
based on symmetry.
Well, I was going to say this is probably not. I don't know what the percentage of this is, but I just assume if you read a book and it has like barely any E's, then it might be like and unless it was like done on a purpose, it's like maybe this wasn't written by a particular human or something like that, because usually E's are more prevalent statistically than not, and so like. To see it all, okay, something's odd here, sort of thing.
That's basically that sort of thing. So I'd say that probably circular logic. So if it refers to something which has been kind of just stated at the start, is generally
like if you believe this, then you should do this, and so if you believe that, now we can start believing this, and say, okay, well, you've had to go 4 or 5 or 7 steps of belief to get to the last belief, which is maybe like the big thing, the global elite are going to come and kill us, right? Yeah. But you had to have believed all of these things that haven't been proven yet. Yeah, and I think probably the biggest one of them all is just it seems to show a lack of understanding of humans, of basically at kind of a fundamental level, I feel. So it's a lot of it is assuming that humans are actually really good at doing what they want to do. That just goes against personal experience, my like seeing other people, and my general view of history, and of even just that innovation book. I was talking about how innovation works by Matt Ridley. Most things fail. So why the fuck are these elites so good at doing all of these different things? Like how are they not failing this one and 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 this one? And it's like, no, they're fucking knocking home runs out of the park, it seems, every single time. So yeah, and just general rules of thumb, like the was it Occam's razor, like the most likely or simple solution is most likely solution. Yeah, that those, it seems to contradict a lot of those sort of things, which I think are generally true. Absolutely, but then you get when it goes against that, again, like, can you imagine someone in the 1940s being like, or 50s or 60s, and being like, the government is, using psilocybin, using LSD and all this, and you'd be like, what? Yeah, that is 100%, so untrue. Then it's true. MK Ultra, what a fucked up thing to do. What an absolutely fucked up thing to do. And if you tried to tell people about this, they're still like 100%. What? And I guess the thing is, like, if I'm just viewing this as a broad scope, how many are correct? Yeah, not many. 1 in 100 maybe. Yeah. But the I guess in the end, the reason that they exist out there and are probably still happening, probably still gives them enough oxygen to be able to be like, oh, okay, it's interesting because what if? It's almost like the what if, because the what if is allowed to exist because there's oxygen provided by previous ones that have existed. So there is that. For sure. The broader base question though about the truth, and I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to... Wait, before we do that, I do want to... So like everything we've said now, I'm 100% has been repeated before. So I want to try and throw like a mere mortal spin on it, something which I don't feel like I've heard other people say. Oh, okay. And I was analyzing this and I realized not only am I a sheep, because most like conspiracy theorists, if they're hearing this, they'd be like, you fucking ignorant sheep. Not only am I a sheep, but I'm kind of a willing sheep in some ways. Like I actually agree with a lot of the conspiracies that are happening with a but attached. So I do seem to have a preference of the bad side of them. So I'm actually pretty anti-growth, which would put me in the depopulation camp of, the elites are trying to depopulate the world. Yep. Kind of like good. I'm more statistical percentages that he's going to find a girl that he has to be with. So I'm anti-growth, but via shrinkage rather than, so this is actually getting more productive at things. So, in terms of the amount of humans on here, I generally say more. Well, I think consciousness is the kind of base of life. So I think more consciousness actually is better. But if you said like anti-growth, I kind of resonate with that a lot. I'm like, I think that's kind of a good thing in many ways. World money,
they're literally going to try to make like a one world money. I remember this has been the craziest thing about Bitcoin to me.
Yep.
Is I remember in forums before Bitcoin, people talking about how, they're going to try and make us all use the same currency. And Bitcoin comes around and there's a huge fanatic following of it. And there's no Bitcoin is the government's trying to create this world money. Like, this is the world money. And it's like, okay, wait, where did all those people go? And is it because it was always the world money. It wasn't that how the world money came about. It was always just like world money equals bad. And I'm like, oh, but world money equals good in this case because it is decentralized, immutable, and all the good properties of it. So it's like, I don't know. I just find many of the, not saying I endorse pedophilia or anything like that, but it's the
clip that, folks. Clip that.
It's there's so many things where I'm like, it's just because there's a person behind it that you hate this thing. Whereas if it was just the thing itself, maybe you'd enjoy it. Maybe you would enjoy having a one world money, like a one money world. Maybe that is a good thing. So
okay.
I don't know. I want to chuck that out there. It's just maybe conspiracy theorists, like the really hardcore ones, maybe they just hate people, and so anything that has to do with a human, they hate.
Maybe, yeah. And it goes back to the article. He seems to have quite deep connections to some of the people in FTX. Is there motivators there of seeing with different colored glasses the reality and going, well, I knew what these people were like. Maybe they're stuffed up in this way. He's emotionally connected. Connects other things in other ways. Cool. Here's your storyline.
So just a question for you: is the FTX debacle like a psy-op, and it actually is the government trying to crack down on crypto through the use of FTX?
If you point blank, I would say if it's going to be default yes, no. I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Because I just think there's too many dumb parties somewhere that would just fail at some point.
Agreed.
Like to be kept such a secret like that, again, someone would find out somewhere. Like it's not like there's one person's just reading an article and it's like, here's the truth. Nah, this would have been pulled somewhere else.
Another good point, that humans aren't good at keeping secrets.
No. So this is, case in point with this whole FTX debacle, right? After it all comes out that Sam's this and Sam's that, all I see on Twitter and a few other mediums is like, here's the internal emails going around between each other. Here's internal DMs that he's been sending to show the lies and whatever. You don't think someone would have done that in all the years that apparently he's being psy-oped by the whole government to push this for crypto collapse? No way. No ways that would have stayed quiet. There is no ways. So I kind of go, okay, that whole the entirety of the truth, that seems a bit bullshit. Were there some party players in here that perhaps were trying to do something, maybe a little bit like that for sure. To get some benefits? For sure. I reckon for sure there's some dodgy stuff going in there. I just don't think it's the extent of the dodginess behind it. Yeah. I'll finish off with this because we're migrating from conspiracy theory to truth. But this one was an interesting one. And I've been listening to a lot of what Bitcoin did with Pete McCormack, and I know that you quite often listen to this.
Yeah, the Corey Klippstein, the latest one, was pretty good.
I'm currently halfway through. But it was a conversation with Jeff Booth. Did you listen to the one with Jeff Booth? Not that one, no. Right.
Well, maybe it's in my saved.
Okay. Yeah. So I listened to this one. And Jeff, for those, I remember that I'd listened to another one a long time ago. But he has a very particular way of having conversations about Bitcoin. And he really gets into a few things in this one. But the way that he lays out, and it reminded me a little bit about conspiracy theories and about reality and truth. And his kind of going in position to kind of get you to understand or see it from his point of view is the current system, fiat system, is theft.
Yeah.
Is theft. So I don't know if you've heard...
Inflation. I've heard inflation is theft.
So not just inflation, it's the entire system. It's theft. Like the entire system... Through inflation, through the way that it operates, it is all theft.
Oh, that's
and it's a strong word. It's a strong word.
Step too far.
Yeah,
for me.
So I was like, well, that's a strong word. Okay, and even with inflation, I kind of go, man, that's a strong word. That's a strong word. Where you're thieving it from.
Theft is Theft is a strong word.
But he would use that repeatedly. So he would place in that conversation. He would say again and 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 again all the time to be like. So and he'd be like, but Peter, is the system founded on theft? Yes. So if you believe that, then X. And so he'd point to the conversation of Bitcoin and go, well, okay, is this system going to be better than one based on theft? And then, your answer kind of defaults to like, well, yes, but that's like you've already kind of agreed to some point. And then he goes beyond. Now, he kind of got into other conversations around why is it pointless to vote? And he, again, stems it all the way down to, well, whoever you vote for, in the end, they're participating in the system existing, which is based on theft. Yeah, so nothing of that matters.
Yeah.
That level of rationalization down to the bare bones, I go, something highlights to me that there's an issue there, because I go, even if that was the truth, like the 100% truth to it, the world is too complex to accept it to be so black and white. Like that you cannot have that. So, that kind of then relates to me for the conspiracy theories. Let's say Area 51 is real in the sense that some people say that there's aliens there. Okay, wonderful. There's probably like 1,000 different realities of what people have said is or isn't happening there.
More than that.
More. Now,
my favorite's the like anything to do with having sex with the aliens. Like the aliens are here and they just close it off because they just want to have sex with the aliens themselves.
But basically it's kind of like, okay, with whatever stream of reality or storylines being put forward, maybe there's some grain in through all of them, some of them partially, which is the reality, right? But the expectation is going to be one and only one is so foolhardy that, I'm calling it out right now, immortalized. We're all immortals. There's not a chance in hell that you're going to get it like absolutely dead on, which is kind of what gets me back to the article. I went, there's absolutely no way this person, I believe, is going to get that absolutely correct. There'll be aspects always of truth in some bits, but I go, for the complex world that we live in, and he's trying to compile like every complexity under the sun into the one guy, I go, no, you would need such accumulated wealth of knowledge, of information, of conversations, of humanity in general to come to a consensus that single points of information like that will no longer make me conform to the truth or to the full storyline, but I will be excited by them. That's kind of like where I ended up with golf.
Yeah. If I had to put my summary just on conspiracy theories in general, I've found them useless in the large respect. No matter how many of them are actually true, how many of them have actually given me a positive benefit or helped me make decisions in my life? Very, very few. The only ones I can really think of is MK Ultra has made me very distrustful of government, which I think has actually helped me in many ways. But, if the moon landing was a hoax, what would be the outcome for me? I don't know, but I don't think it'll make me even more distrustful. I feel like I needed to believe one. I needed one for one to be incontrovertible enough for me to go, that's fucked up. There's people conspiring to do fucked up things, and that's enough for me to have the suspicion of groups and entities in large respects. And then that's there's just so many, man. There's just so many, and I don't personally get enjoyment out of them. I don't personally get enjoyment of knowing that there's a conspiracy of archaeologists or against archaeologists, or it's just that it's kind of like Joe Rogan. You've heard his kind of story of how he was like, I wanted them to be real so much that I was kind of like distorting logic in my own brain, and it needed him to go out with Bigfoot people and realize like, oh, there's no black people here. That's his kind of joke that he tells all the time. That kind of I just don't find them useful.
Yeah. I think, and I don't want to say that I find them super useful in the sense that I'm not seeking them out to be like, oh, I want to go read one today.
Even useful in the fun factor. I don't find them useful.
But I do find them useful in the...
Apart from birds aren't real. That one fucking...
I do find it interesting in
whoever came up with that.
In the sense of playing with almost like a storyline that I know not to be true, but almost applying... It's like a tester for me of being like, okay, can I separate the truth enough from the story and take away the fun of it without having to fall down the rabbit hole of XYZ that might be presented. Kind of like how, I found real enjoyment when, I forget his name, but a YouTuber and a few other people called out Bored Ape for being basically Nazis. Like Nazi, and the Bored Apes are Nazis. And then, people started making quite like funny things of being like, well, the Sappy Seals are Nazis too and all this kind of stuff. And I go, all these connections, and again, the same thing, all these connections, all these tie-ins, and it's like, you can have fun in the truth, like in the probably the bits and bobs that are like real. Like, yes, there's connections here. Yes, there's connections there, and separate it from the story and just treat it as like almost a fictional tale of like enjoyment. So there's that. But if I didn't enjoy that particular topic, no, I wouldn't be going out and seeking to know about it more.
Yeah. And then also my own propensity to believe things a bit too readily, I think, is also why I tend to steer clear of them, because it's believing things that aren't useful
it's not helpful for
is not just not helpful in general.
All right, me more or less, we're probably going to leave it at there. Is there any final comments or anything that we want to touch on the tube there?
So Joey was just saying, oh man, he's got a couple of things. He was saying, I agree with Juan. Oh no, wait, you've already talked about. He was agreeing with me this time. Time pressure isn't conducive to good decision thinking. I'm also pretty sure that might be an objective truth. That I'm guessing he's talking about the time pressure isn't good. Then he was just saying, awesome neg by Juan, statistically better for Juan to find a girlfriend. For Karen to go. Yeah. Nothing to birds aren't real. I love that movement too. Thank you, Joey, for tuning in, man. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated. And for anyone else who's been listening to this live, once again, we do try and do these 7 p.m. every Wednesday, Brisbane, Queensland, Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Speaking of,
daylight savings.
I think in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I'll have to miss that one. 3 weeks' time.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Why?
There's a group Christmas party.
No. He's cancelling it. He's cancelled. We're not moving these folks. So you heard it here first.
I have to move that one.
So it's not being moved. But for now, me and Models, I hope you have enjoyed. And once again, if you do want to support us, it is through the Valley model that you can support. So send through a Boostagram with your thoughts from today's show. But for now, we'll leave it there. Me and Model Lights, Juan out.
Karen out.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey, for tuning in, my friend. Much appreciated for the Boostagram as well.
Thank you.
I'll be on the Discord if you feel like chatting, Joe. Juan's got to head off shortly.
Yep. Is it the 14th then?
No, the next one.
The 21st?
Yeah, I believe it's.
Okay, cool. I probably won't even be around. Yeah, so I won't even be here.
Where are you going to be?
I'm going to go to Sydney.
With Jazz?
Yeah.
Nice.